everyone, I'm back. It's me. I've got a story time video for you. I feel like I haven't done one of these in a super long time. But this story time is about my experience using Flighthub to book some flights. So last year in May, I went to London in 2018, so it's been almost a year now since I went, end of May. It'll be the 1-year anniversary. And that trip was my very first solo trip, so it was planned all by me, mostly financed by me. My dad pitched in a little bit, thanks Dad, but I planned it all myself. I bought all my theater tickets, I bought my flights, I bought my hostel. It was great, and I decided to to buy my tickets through Flighthub because I had heard a lot that it was really good and blah blah blah, and it was cheaper and all that jazz. So I was like, sure, let's give it a try. And I was flying with WestJet, which meant that I was flying into the Gatwick airport, which I think worked in my favor actually, because I've heard that Heathrow was a lot more busy, whereas Gatwick was like pretty chill. It was a lot less crazy. So I went ahead and I found some really good flights to London. I had to fly kind of like a weird direction, sort of, so I wasn't able to get a non-stop flight from Calgary to London, but on the way there, but I was able to get one on the way back. So on the way back, I flew directly from London back to Calgary, but on the way there, I had to go Calgary to Vancouver, Vancouver to London. So, which, for anyone who isn't sure, Calgary is like in Alberta and Vancouver is in British Columbia, which is the province to the west of Alberta. So basically, I was flying west and then east again, back over Calgary to go over the sea to London. So, but I couldn't get another flight. It was fine. I was like, whatever, you know what? I'll have a nice, like, 4-hour connection, or like 4-hour layover in Vancouver, and I'll just explore the airport. It'll be great. It'll be a good time. Whatever. My flight from Calgary to Vancouver, the flight that I booked on the Flighthub website, that flight, this is important, was supposed to leave at noon, at 12 o'clock exactly, and I would get to Vancouver at 12:30, which meant that I had 4 hours, almost 5 hours, basically 5 hours, in the Vancouver airport before my connecting flight, which was at 5:30. I was supposed to leave Vancouver at 5:30 to go to London. And so that morning, I'm all ready. I've like got everything. Got my passport. I've like printed out everything that I need to like show the border, like show the is it passport control, border control, the people to you have to talk to like get let into the country. I had everything printed off. I was all packed. It was great. Super excited. Hooray. I was like done school. I just graduated. Like this was my graduation trip, and I graduated like I didn't even walk the stage yet, but I'd like finished my class. Comic-Con was done. It was great. I was ready. I was so excited to go on my very first solo trip. My dad drops me off at the airport at 10 a.m. And I'm like, yes, I'm here. I go through security. No problem. I go to my gate. Encounter problem 1. The flight at the gate that I was supposed to be, like they'd given me the gate and that was fine. So I like went to the gate. It was on my boarding pass. I went to the gate and the flight that was there was not the flight that matched my ticket. And I was like, okay, is there another flight leaving before this one? Maybe. So I went to talk to one of the flight attendants that was like behind the desks there, right? And I was like, okay, well, I'll just check and maybe they moved the gate and like, I don't know. I went to talk to her and she said, there's no flight with that number. And I was like, what? Sorry? What do you mean there's no flight with this number? I am booked on a flight at this time and it hasn't been cancelled, so what? So basically she checked my like boarding pass and she was like, okay, so it turns out that you're actually on this later flight, and the later flight was at 3 o'clock. And that flight was, or at 3:30, I think, that flight was supposed to leave at 3:30 and get to Vancouver at 4, which meant that I had an hour and a half before my connecting flight would leave, which meant that if we were delayed from Calgary to Vancouver at all, I would miss my connection. And I did not buy flight insurance or travel insurance. I was like, oh my god, like I cannot afford to miss this flight and have to buy another ticket because like they're super expensive. Like I was pretty lucky. This whole entire, like the round trip flight was about 600 Canadian dollars, which like is not bad. Like that is really good, I think, for like a flight to London. But yeah, so enter panic mode. Now keep in mind, this is my very first solo trip, like ever. The only other times that I've ever, like I've gone on a lot of trips, I'm incredibly lucky that way, but it's always been with my family. So like my dad has always handled flights and like all that stuff, and if problems come up, like he deals with it. Like I've never had to deal with something like this myself, and I was like, I haven't even left Calgary and already this is like gone downhill. Like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? So the flight attendant told me to go talk to the customer service people, and I was like, okay, I'll go over to customer service. And I do, and I told her the situation. I was like, hey, like I booked this flight on Flighthub, and it says on like my email confirmation, it says this, and like my boarding pass says this. Or no, I'm gonna backtrack here for a second. I remembered I had printed out my boarding pass, and I was looking at it while sitting in my seat and noticed that it said that my flight was leaving at 3:30, and I was like, what? Like this flight is supposed to be leaving at noon. And that's when I went to go talk to the flight attendant, and I was like, hey, like could you just check, like is there not a flight? Like I'm supposed to be on this flight at noon. And she was like, that flight doesn't exist. Like that flight is at 3:30, right? And okay, there we go. We're all squared up now. So anyway, I'm at customer service, and I was like, I'm just really worried. Like I went up there and I was like, hey, so I booked this flight on Flighthub. And the customer service lady was like, oh, and I was like, oh no, does this happen a lot? And so I explained to her what happened, and I was like, this is like the email confirmation, like it says that my flight is supposed to be leaving at noon, like I don't know, but my boarding pass says 3:30, like I don't know what is happening, and I'm just really worried that I'm gonna miss my connection in Vancouver to Gatwick. Like I'm just really worried, and I was like getting super like anxious and like panicky and like teary because I was like, I cannot believe this. Like I have not even left the city yet, and already this entire thing is like falling to pieces. Oh my goodness, what am I gonna do? And that customer service lady was amazing. She was like, no worries, there's a flight at like, I think it was at like 1 or something, and she's like, would that work? Like, does that feel more comfortable for you? And I was like, that would be amazing. Like that gives me just a lot less anxiety because I know that I'll have more time in Vancouver in case we get delayed, right? Like I have more of kind of a leeway between when I have to leave for like when I have to like catch this flight. And I was like, oh my goodness, yes, like that would be amazing. And like I know that flights, like you have to pay money to like change your flight, right? And I think it was $100 or something. I wasn't sure, but I asked this lady, I was like, okay, like how much is this gonna cost? And she looks at me and she says, I'm not gonna charge you. Like, angel woman. Like I'm getting emotional even just thinking about it because she was so nice. Like I think she could tell that I was just like full on panic mode. Like I didn't know. Obviously she looked at me and she's like, here's this like 24-year-old girl who like booked her first trip by herself and is like freaking out because something's going wrong, like this poor thing. And she booked on Flighthub, which is like bad, apparently. I understand now why. Oh my god, amazing person. I don't remember what her name was, but like thank you so much to that customer service agent. Like that was incredible. That was so nice. So she changed my flight and I like went back to my gate and I was like ready and it was all good. All good. I got to Vancouver just fine. I got there at like 2, so I had like 3 hours. It was great. And then actually they ended up delaying that flight, the Vancouver to London flight. They ended up delaying it for an hour because the flight attendants that we were getting on our flight had just come off of another flight, and they wanted to give them like an hour to like eat and, you know, rest and stuff. And like, I get it, like, all good. So like, I probably would have been fine, honestly, but like, we wouldn't have known this, right? And I'm so happy that she changed those flights, because I just know that I would have been on that flight from Vancouver to Calgary just feeling so anxious and like tense and just like freaking out if we were even the barest of the second late leaving. So like, that particular segment all worked out, and I actually had a lot of time. I thoroughly combed the Vancouver airport, because since I was flying Calgary to Vancouver, I flew domestic, right? So I ended up coming out in one of the domestic terminals. So I like thoroughly explored the domestic part of the airport, and then I like thoroughly explored the international part of the airport, which I'd never been in. It's super cool. They have like an aquarium, and there's like a little river and like a bridge. It's amazing. I love it. Super fun and like huge. So like, got some dinner, went to my gate. It was the right gate. The gate and the flight numbers matched on like my ticket versus the gate number. Like, it was all good. I was ready. I was like, all right, good. Like, okay. Phase 1 complete. We've made it to Vancouver. I'm at the gate. I can get to London. Yes. The flight to London itself was just fine. I sat beside this lovely gentleman named Oliver, who was flying he was connecting through London to go to Milan eventually to meet his girlfriend. So I doubt he's watching this, but Oliver, you were a great person to be a seatmate with. You were lovely. He was super fun to talk to, and he rented one of those, like, since we were flying WestJet, so you can rent like the tablets, and like use the WestJet app, which is like super cool, honestly. Like, I know that you have to like pay extra for them to feed you, but like literally that app almost makes up for it. They have so much stuff to watch. It's amazing. Anyway, he had rented one of the tablets, and he was like, yo, if I'm asleep, like, feel free to use this. I'm not gonna use it. You might as well. And I was like, oh, that's so nice. He was a super great guy. Yeah, we ended up leaving. We were delayed. What was it? I think the delay did not help him very much, because he had a connecting flight that he had to catch when he got into London. And so the fact that we were delayed an hour probably was making him anxious. But like, he was a lovely guy. I hope you got to Milan, Oliver. It was great meeting you. So, got to London. All good. Tackled the London Underground. All good, surprisingly. I like got off at the right station. By the way, minor like digression, because when I got to the airport, I immediately went and got like a phone chip, or a SIM card, yes, so that I could like text and use like data and whatever. And the one that I ended up getting, I think for £20, I got like, I don't know, like 10 gigabytes of data or something. Like, there's no way I'm gonna use all that in 5 days, but whatever. And so with that, I was able to use Google Maps basically everywhere, but I also downloaded this app called City Mapper. Not sponsored, by the way, but just, it was a very good app. And I know that they have like London, the city, listed. Oh my god, it was so cool, because it would map, it was like Google Maps, but it would map your journey through the transit system, and it would like specifically tell you like what car in the train to get on to be the most convenient for your trip. So if I was going from, so for instance, I took the train from Gatwick into kind of one of the main central like stations in London, and then from there I had to transfer to a different line to like get onto the one that I needed to get to my hostel. My hostel was close to the British Museum, by the way. I think it was called like Astor Port Hostels, possibly. Lovely place, by the way. But yeah, and so it would tell you like in the app, like, go to this platform, this side, get on the first car, because that would be like when you got off at the next station, or whatever your station was, like that would be the car that like has you most conveniently located next to the stairs, or like next to a connection to another platform or something. Like, so cool. They thought of everything. So like, that is a very good app, and I recommend it. I don't know what other cities it is used for currently. I know that there's London though, and possibly Tokyo, but I don't know for sure. Again, not sponsored, but just really good app. Yeah, so I like made it to oh my goodness, I'm hopeless with directions. So I made it to the street. I was on the right street as my hostel, but like I walked past it like 4 times, and I walked past this actual hotel that was like next to my hostel. I don't remember what the hotel was called. Bloomsbury, perhaps? I'm not sure, but man, I walked past this thing like 3 times, and like the 4th time, the doorman of this hotel was like, "Do you need help?" like finding where you're supposed to be going. And I was like, yes, please. I think by that point I like figured it out and I knew where I was going, and it turned out that my hostel was literally next to this hotel, so I'd walked past it like 4 times. This poor doorman was like, tourist, obviously. Like, she doesn't have any idea where she's going. Yeah, but like the actual trip was so amazing. I saw lots of theater. I saw lots of like, oh, it was so cool. I walked around everywhere. I did so many steps that trip, like holy crap. Yeah, I saw like all the big sites. Went to like St. Paul's Cathedral, went to Westminster Abbey, walked past the Globe, did the British Museum, like everything. It was just so good. And then the flight back. So, as I said, all of my flights were booked through Flighthub, which is the moral of this story. And the flight back, I was very lucky. It was like a non-stop flight. So non-stop from Gatwick to Calgary. So like, should be easy, right? No. So my flight back was supposed to be at 12:50. I was supposed to leave at 12:50, and I would get back home to Calgary at 3:30 on the 9th of May. Well, because now on like Facebook you can message, like you can Facebook message WestJet. So I messaged them and I was like, hey, like I just want to double check when my flight is leaving tomorrow. Like, here's the flight number. My like booking confirmation says that it leaves at this time at 12:50. Like, is that correct? And she was like, no, that flight leaves at 11. And I was like, flight of what? Like, I don't know. Are they just like making up times and they're like, it'll be fine. At least with the flight from Calgary to Vancouver, I was early, right? Like, it wasn't a big deal, but like, you know, if I couldn't have gotten the flight changed, so what? I'm sitting there for like a couple more hours, but like the flight back was 2 hours earlier than what my confirmation said. Like, I don't understand. And I was like, okay, thank goodness I checked, so I'm not like, you know, get to the airport like, oh, your flight left already. Like, you weren't even there. So I know you're supposed to be at the airport 2 hours ahead, right? So like, flight's at 11, get there for 9 a.m. I left my hostel at 5 a.m. Why, you might ask? Because I wanted to leave as much time as possible to get completely lost in the London Underground. Like, you never know. Like, I don't know. Something could happen. Who the heck knows? So I left my hostel 5 in the morning, got to the airport at 7 a.m. I was like, oh, okay, here I am. Now, before I finish this story, I do just want to touch on the border situation. So on the way there, when I arrived, I've heard that Gatwick, like, the people are nicer there. I don't have anything to compare this to because I've never flown through Heathrow, so I have no idea if like the border control over there is like not as nice. I actually just finished watching Carrie Dayton's video about her flight to London, and like the flight people do not sound nice over in Heathrow, and that's where she flew like into. So I've heard that Gatwick is like nicer. I don't know. So basically, when I got off the plane, I had like filled up my customs card and whatever, right? And, like, all good. Oliver, like the guy who was sitting next to me, he talked to like a flight attendant, or not a flight, like a flight person, security, somebody, attendant of some kind, while we were in like the customs line, and he was like, I have a flight to catch, like, is there anything that, and they were like, ah, okay, and they like pulled him out of line, and I never saw him again. So goodbye, Oliver. I hope you made it to Milan. I really do. And so I get up this like lovely winding line, and I'm like in front, and then finally it's my turn, and I'm in front of this gentleman who is asking me, like, why are you here? What are you going to do while you're here? And I was like, I want to see London. Like, I don't really have a plan. I just want to go see things. And I was like, I don't have like my flight, like I obviously don't have my like boarding pass for my flight back, but like this is my confirmation that I have a flight back, and like this is my hostel that I'm staying at, and like this is my checkout date. Like, is that okay? Are you like, what? I think maybe I was just like super anxious, and of course this guy is just doing his job, like he just wants to know why I'm here. But yeah, no, he was like, what are you gonna do while you're here? And I was like, I'm gonna go and like see the sights and see musicals, like here are my tickets. I'm really excited. Yeah, this guy was like deadpan, like he did not smile at all. I was like trying to be really friendly and like upbeat and like excited about my trip, and he was like, why are you here? And I was like, but he let me through. All good. He was just doing his job. I'm sure he does not have the energy or kind of time to like be friendly to everybody. Like, it's all good. And he wasn't mean. He was just like brisk. Totally fine. Like, I get it, man. Customer service, no matter what you're doing, is hell sometimes. Like, no worries. But just in the moment, like after kind of the harrowing journey that I'd already had, I was like, oh my god, like, do you not like me? But yeah, all good. So let's get forward again to the adventure back. So it's 7 a.m. I've made it to the airport. It's very exciting. And over the course of the week, I'd gone to visit the Tower of London. It was very nice. I didn't go in, but I did go into the gift shop, and I purchased for myself a beautiful jar of strawberry and champagne jam. Interesting fact. Jam counts as a liquid. So, if any of you decide to take jam home, make sure you put it in your bag that goes under the plane. Which I did not know. I also didn't have a bag going under the plane. I think you can see where this is going. So, I'm going through security. For one thing, when I took the Gatwick Express back, so like, this story is jumping around a lot. I apologize. I'm tired. It's been an emotional day. But basically, when I was following my city mapper and like Google Maps and stuff, and I got out on this like weird platform that like wasn't connected to anything, and I ended up asking some like workers. I was like, I need to get to this platform. Do you know where it is? And they were like, oh yeah, like it's all good. People in London are very friendly. At least the ones that I encountered. I'm going through security, and my backpack gets like flagged, and it doesn't, it like goes through like the special thing saying that they need to check it. Well, turns out that it was fine. It was just that my Kobo and my tablet were like too close together, and so they like couldn't see through them, and they were like, what is that thing? So I had to like take them out and be like, sorry. And they were like, oh yeah, it's fine. So that was all good. And then he's like, do you have another bag? And I'll just say it's right here, like coming down like the regular line. When I turn and see it go down the like special line saying that they need to check that one too, I was like, oh no. And like for a minute I was like, what's even in there? Like, I don't even know what they could be checking for. Like, what would have gone off? Like my toothpaste maybe? So he was looking in there, and he pulls out the jar of jam, and he's like, this counts as a liquid. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And he's like, yeah, like, I'm really sorry, but like, you can't go through with this. And I was like, man. And he was very nice. He was very sweet. He's like, I'm really sorry, like, there's nothing I can do. I was like, no, I totally get it. Like, the rules are the rules. Like, it's fine. You know, luckily my cousin was going to London like in the next couple months, so I was like, yeah, I'll just ask her to like buy me some. And this security guard was like, I told him, I was like, well, you know, maybe one of you guys can take it home or something and like enjoy it. And he's like, no, we can't, like we have to throw it away. I guess just because it could be something bad, like just a precaution. I'm not really sure. Probably that. And he looks at me and he's like, do you want to try it? And I was like, really? Like, I was literally in the back of my mind, I was like, should I ask him if I can try it? Like, he's not gonna keep it. Like, should I ask if I can just try it? But then he offered it. So I was like, yes. So I opened up this jar of jam and I, like a caveman, got in there with my finger and like ate some of this jam. It was delicious. It was so yummy. I'm still like heartbroken over the death of my jam. You know, I got to try it, so like that's nice, I guess. Yeah. Jam is a liquid, guys. Keep that in mind. So, you know, that was a little bit heartbreaking, but it's okay. And then, since it was like 7:30 in the morning, I had like, you know, 3 hours to kill before my flight. So I went and sat in Starbucks for 3 hours, which more chaos ensued. So I noticed that it was getting to like 10 o'clock, and in the Gatwick airport, if you've never been there, they have like big, huge, like boards, like computery looking boards, right? And it has all of the flight numbers, and then it shows you the gate, and then it will show you like if your gate is open, closing, or closed, so that you know. And sometimes if it's not showing one of those three, it'll tell you like check back at this time for more information. So I was like sitting there waiting to, like looking at this board, waiting to see what my gate was, and it was like 10 o'clock and I hadn't seen anything. I was like, like we should be boarding in like half an hour. Like, shouldn't they tell me what the gate is? Remember, this flight's supposed to leave at 11. So I like went down to ask customer service, and they're like, oh yeah, it's delayed. And I was like, oh, okay. All good. So I like went back upstairs and, okay. And I was like, all right, so it's been delayed until noon. And I was like, sure. And then it was undelayed back to 11, and then redelayed to 12:30, and then undelayed again to 11, and then delayed until 11:30. By this time, it's about 11. And I was like, okay, like I'm just gonna sit here and wait. And as I'm watching this board, it goes from like my flight number, it goes from, and I'm like looking at the column that like is supposed to show you your gate, and it goes from check back for more information to gate closing. Like no in between, no nothing. Just immediately from like no gate information to gate closing. And I was like, what? And of course the gate is like all the way across this freaking airport, like all the way across the airport, like down this long hallway, down another long hallway. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me, like what is happening? And so I'm like sprinting through the airport, and luckily there was like a group in front of me who was also running, and I was like, are you guys on the like Gatwick to Calgary flight? And they were like, yes. And I was like, okay, good. There's like 8 of us now, so like they're not gonna leave if 8 of us are missing. We get to the gate, it's not even open yet. I was like, what are you doing to me? This was not like, that was not Flighthub's fault. That was definitely Gatwick Airport. Just like, ooh, I don't know what they were doing, but made it home. It's all good. I think I only ended up being like an hour later, and I had let my parents know like beforehand. I was like, hey, like my flight's delayed to this time, my flight's delayed to this time, my flight's on blip, blip, blip. And so finally I was like, I'm on the plane now. So like my dad came and got me, it was all good. But anyway, so like that was the flight portion of my trip to London. I haven't made any other videos about like what I actually did while I was there. I didn't really film all that much, to be honest. But it was a really fun trip, and I'm really glad that I did it. But I guess the moral of this story is like, don't book with Flighthub. like, I don't think I've ever booked with Flighthub before, but like, I don't know if other people have had this problem, like if this is a common thing, or if I was just incredibly unlucky for like my first time booking with them. Like, I don't know. Feel free to share your own experiences, but like, I don't think I'm gonna book with them again. And if I do, I'll be like double checking with the actual like airline to make sure that the flight that I'm on exists and is like leaving at the time that it says. Like, what? It was so weird. Like, it was my actual flight confirmation and it was wrong. Like, I don't understand. But it's okay. I made it. It's all good. Like, I had a great time. Everything turned out fine. But it was just very stressful in the moment. So, like, I guess just be wary if you're booking through Flighthub. Just be wary. But, you know, feel free to share your guys' personal experiences, if you have any, below, or, you know, advice. I don't know if you have it. Maybe I did something wrong. Like, I don't know. Who the heck even knows now? But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this story time. If you did, feel free to give it a like and subscribe if you want. I don't normally make story times, but sometimes I do. And I enjoy telling them, and I hope you enjoy listening to them. Feel free to ring the bell for notifications, wherein you will get a notification every time I post a video, which might be useful because it does not happen consistently, because I'm teaching now, and my life is busy, but we're getting there. It's okay. Alright, so I'm gonna stop rambling now and leave. So, again, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time.